everyone. Thank you for coming to our third Woman in Hardware event. I'm Michaela. I am a mechatronics engineer. I'm in my third year of working at Crown Equipment, where I make robotic forklifts, which is pretty fun. And I run Hardware Meetup for fun on the side with my dad, David. Thank you so much for coming today. I really appreciate the big turnout. So put up your hand if you've been to a Hardware Meetup before. So kind of half and half. Awesome, good to see. So this is a special type of event we run once a year that's free, where we celebrate some amazing women in hardware and their stories and kind of all connect together as a community. But typically Hardware Meetup runs events about every month or two, kind of focused on different themes and startups. So it might, or larger companies. So it might be like a medtech event where we'll get 3 cool up and coming startups or bigger companies to come and present. And it's more about the kind of hands-on passion that people have for making cool stuff rather than like a super businessy networking event. So it's a lot more fun and social, I would say. These events have been running since 2016, but I took over running them like 3 years ago. So and I'm having a lot of fun. So yeah, thank you for all of you for coming. So now we will introduce our different sponsors. So first up we have Outset. So David will give a talk for Outset despite not identifying as a woman. He identifies as my dad, so that's why he's here.
Yep. So, this is Outset. It's a really amazing setup they've got here. So, they call themselves the home of deep tech. So, deep tech is where it's not just designing another widget, there's actually some real R&D, or more of the R, the research that's needed. So in this building, you've got lots of different companies they've been able to move in here, they've been able to set up the lab and everything so they can basically do the work that they need to do. So that's one aspect of it, is the building. The second one is actually around venture capital. So they invest in deep tech companies that need some funding in those early stages to get to them the point where then they can move forward. And then the last one is community, which is this. So you're seated in our community area at the moment. So at lunchtime, this place is packed. There's people, there's scientists, there's engineers, there's all sort of really cool discussions that are going on. And I think what the amazing thing is that, you need to go and talk to that person over there because they're doing some interesting stuff there that might help you, what you're doing. So you might have your own challenges and other people can actually help you come up with a solution. So, yeah, that's it.
Awesome. Sweet. Thank you, David. We have Loon Digital.
Oh, hello, everyone. Sorry for my croaky voice. I think I just told Michaela I take all the winter illnesses this year. And I have never talked to so many women. Okay, so Loon. Loon is a small company based in Auckland, and we specialized in embedded systems, embedded hardware, software, and application development. And I think what makes us really unique is not only that we are really cool people and perfectionists, but more likely that we are really cost effective and we can jump into the development phase at any stages. So from the idea until the end product, we can help companies succeed their goals. And I have good news. This year, we have 4 vacancies for interns. Ooh. So if any of you are keen to join us for an internship, I would love to have some women in our group because I'm the only female. So I would love to have at least one more female in our group. So you just come to me if you are an engineer, and if you are looking for an internship position.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Edith.
Survive.
Yeah, Loon does really good internships. I'd highly recommend it. Awesome. And next up we have Lunda's Jordan. Welcome back.
Thank you. Hello, I'm Anna. I am a lawyer at Lowndes Jordan, the unpronounceable law firm. You can call us Lojo. And we can help you if you're thinking about starting a business, if you have a business, if you're an investor, shareholder with any of your kind of company-related legal issues. No divorces or criminal issues. We don't do that. But anything to do with a company or contracts or anything like that, we can help. I was working at Lanzatech for 8 years, who was one of the original, founding members of the whole kind of Future House ecosystem. So I've been involved in a lot of kind of startup chaos legal issues before. So the chances are, if you have something going on and you need some legal help and you are a company, especially if you are a startup or a deep tech company, we can help you. I am happy to chat with anyone, no commitment basis. I'm at Outset in this kitchen area every last Thursday of the month in the afternoon. Anyone's welcome to pop in, or you can give me a call or just come chat with me after the thing.
Awesome.
Cool.
Sweet. Thanks, Anna. And last of all, Braymac.
Hi, I'm Claire from Braymac. I'm not sure if any of you will have heard of us before. We're part of the same group as Mauser. So we do board level components, embedded compute product, FPGAs, if anyone knows what one of those are. Anyone? Yes, somebody knows what an FPGA is. Excellent. So we're based, we're an American company, but we've got offices in New Zealand and across Australia. So if you're doing any new design, you can come and talk to us. We're able to help supply some components.
Awesome. Cool. Sweet. Thank you so much. I've known you for how long? Probably
I think since 2022.
Ooh.
So I think good 4 years,
Yeah.
at least 4 years.
Yeah, at least.
Because I think it was at the start of when I joined WEN, which was the start of my second year, which was 2022. Long time ago now.
Yeah.
Not that long, I guess. But hi everyone. My name is Sophia. My pronouns are they, she. A little bit more about me to start off. I'm currently studying for a Master of Design at AUT, but I have a Bachelor of Engineering specializing in mechatronics from University of Auckland. I graduated technically mid-2025, but finished my studies end of 2024. And I also do photography on the side, so you might have seen me in this space before holding a camera. I do some of the photography for Hardware Meetup. And aside from that, I really like hiking, being outdoors. I have 2 cats. Their names are Coco and Suki. They're nearly 4 years old. And I also like running on the side. That's me doing the Vancouver Half Marathon, which is also to say I'm from Vancouver, which is why I might sound a little bit different. But my mom is from Whangarei, so I am part Kiwi, part Canadian. And I'm training for the Auckland Marathon this year. So fingers crossed I actually get good enough in time to be able to do that without dying.
Exciting.
Sweet. So I'll go with my career journey. I made this in MS Paint. I'm not an artist in the sense that I cannot draw.
You are an artist, though.
I'm an artist in other senses, and I will get to that. But yes, so going through my career journey, bit of an overview. My expectation was this very linear, stair-stepping, from internship to junior to intermediate to senior to whatever comes after that.
That's what we're told, at least.
Yes, exactly. So I go into engineering thinking, oh, this is going to be the path, right? I'm going to get my first internship and I'm going to go from there. The reality is it was more like, okay, one little step and then nightmare, but in a good way. I think it was a good nightmare. So I'll start from the beginning, which is my first ever internship at Halter. So I was a production engineering intern in the middle of my second year all the way to just before the start of my third year of engineering. Kate joined me about halfway through that as well. And she is still there to this day. I salute you. And so starting off with this internship was definitely a really transformative experience for me for a lot of reasons, but also showed me what I didn't want to do. So I really enjoyed the initiative that I had and the amount of leadership and organization and sort of like the skills that I improved in those areas, especially when I was having to lead a meeting in front of senior engineers to explain how we were going to transfer our BOM system to another system. It was kind of crazy, especially as an 18-year-old. But in a lot of ways, it was also not really the kind of work I wanted to do, and so I declined to continue working with them after that summer and decided I was going to go into the deep end of not having a job lined up for the following summer yet so that I could give myself that opportunity to explore. Aside from that, I did a lot of clubs, a lot of making, just on the side, a lot of creative work that was at the time not really direction, like there was no direction to it, but it was just me kind of exploring and figuring out what do I enjoy doing. I also did a lot for women in engineering, especially for diverse hiring, for helping improve like kind of the start of it with kids in school, like with STEM workshops that I ran through RoboGals, improving diversity for women in engineering and undergrad through WEN, which is how I met Michaela. and then also with industry as well, and that's how I got to speak at a panel with Diversity Agenda in Parliament, which was a super cool opportunity. But aside from that, again, lots of making. I did Terrible Ideas Hackathon, I made MOSFET earrings, I made 3D printed arm cuffs, and I made like take-home kits for the IEEE Women in Engineering Leadership. Oh my god. I love cool 3D printed earrings, or just random earrings out of cool shit. I have swords today. So that's what I love to do in my spare time, at least at the time I did.
Ones I made.
Cool. But yeah, just a lot of like directionless making, but just having fun. And on the side, as I mentioned, I do freelance photography. So this is also where I did a lot of creative self-expression with self-portraits, a lot of event photography, and also a lot of creative portrait shoots with my friends. And I have very pretty friends, so it was not hard to take photos of them. But really cool just getting to do this kind of stuff on the side just because I wanted to. And then I had friends who were willing to support that and just explore together, which was, yeah, just a really cool opportunity on the side. But at the time, I just saw it completely separate from engineering, just like another facet of me that didn't really have any place professionally. And going into my second internship, I did end up in Singapore, which was quite cool. I worked with A-STAR, which is the Agency for Science, Technology, and Research, as a robotics research intern. And I don't know if I can play the video, it's okay if not, but it's essentially what I worked on was a wireless networking protocol called ESP Now as part of the ESP32 board. And with that, I was able to make a wireless bilateral teleoperation setup. So it's essentially controlling like a robotic arm, or in this case, just a motor, remotely and wirelessly. And it syncs up the torque and the position of the motor so that when the robotic arm hits like an obstacle, for example, you'll feel that like force feedback on your end. So it allows you to get that haptic feedback. So really cool project. This was at the time when I was considering maybe doing research or like dipping my toes into it. But I think what I loved most about this was just getting to experiment with new technology and make things. And I really enjoyed the culture of it and the sort of my colleagues and getting to like have Chinese New Year with them and do a big barbecue. It was very fun. So yeah, going into fourth year engineering, again, I was thinking about dipping my toes into research. And so I did take a research assistant role, which I'll get back to later. But with the things that I had choice over in my fourth year, so like electives and whatnot, with Part for Project, I worked on a robotic sampling mechanism for discrete rock sampling on Mars. And with that, my partner and I did end up winning an industry award from Crown Robotics, which was very cool. And yeah, I had a great time developing that over the year. We cut into a rock. It was kind of scary. But I also got to develop a robotic under-actuated hand as part of the biomechatronics course, and then my other elective was additive manufacturing, where I made a 3D printed light-up keychain. And I put electronics in it because I could.
You're missing out the scary part, how you had a gigantic like saw, and you had to have like gigantic barriers to prevent like
yes.
like rocks like this.
Yeah, pretty much. To be fair, most of that work was the work of my Part for Project partner, but I was there for the test, and we had separate room, and then like glass, or not glass, like acrylic around it, so it was like closed off, and then remotely operating it, and then just like ducking down and hoping none of us would die. It was fine in the end. Our supervisor was a little bit scared, I think. But I would say the most transformative experience of my final year wasn't a work experience, it wasn't a university project, it was engineering review. And if you don't know what that is, it's essentially a theater production run completely by engineering students every year on top of their studies. It's kind of crazy that it comes together in the end, but it is something that we do every year and we do pull off somehow. We do it at Sky City, so we usually have up to like 1,000 people seeing it every year, and then additionally on YouTube even after that. And I got to be video director, which essentially meant that I co-wrote, produced, filmed, directed, edited, did pre-production, everything, and post-production for a music video and a video skit. And it was the coolest experience of my engineering degree because it was a creative project that I could put time and energy into and have creative say over. I got to work with other creative people across different disciplines. You know, we had people from props, from acting, from costumes, from singing and dancing, like so many different things that came together. And these are all people who are also studying engineering. So it was very cool to be around other creative people who also saw the benefit of dipping toes into both STEM and art. And that's kind of where that inkling of like being able to do both started in me. And that's just some shots from like my team, from the exec, from like behind the scenes. It is on YouTube if anyone wants to see it from 2024. Please don't judge. And after that, I did not apply for grad roles. I had no idea what I wanted to do, But from engineering review, I knew I wanted to work on something creative with other creative people and probably in something more multidisciplinary. But I also wanted to take a break, so naturally I took another internship. I worked as a mechatronics engineering intern for Aethermotics, which was a wearable tech startup developing a cooling vest. So I worked to consolidate some of the electronics and did a bit of testing. And on top of that, I was still working as a research assistant. So throughout my 4th year and into the summer, I worked with CARES, which is like the robotics research lab within University of Auckland. And I was kind of the only hardware engineer on a team of software engineers, so I basically just got to make more things. And I made a autonomous camera system just to move a camera up and down so that it could take photos and analyze those photos of plants for disease detection in greenhouses. So a really cool application. And then on top of all of that, I also kept developing earrings. I made these light up ones that kind of started from this first iteration all the way to this lantern design. I never really finished a full set of them, but I have the means to complete it, so I should probably just do it.
What kind of battery are you using in that?
Tiny hearing aid batteries.
Oh, wow.
I think that was the one pain point of trying to put tiny earrings into a 3D printed part and have it easy to replace, and I still am working on that. One day I will figure it out. And coming out of that, I also did not know what I was going to do, but I finally did take a break for myself, and I immediately started another project. I applied for the ProtoStars program with Blackbird Foundation, which is the charitable branch of Blackbird Venture Capital, so the company that invests in Halter and Canva. And so ProtoStars is specifically the program for ages 18 to 25 for people in Australia and New Zealand to run passion projects, and they give 1K grants to do so. So I applied with the idea of doing a STEAM exhibition, so STEM and art in Auckland, and I got in. And so that's how Resonance was born. At the time, I was essentially just by myself trying to think of a prototype to develop, and I ended up creating an LED matrix you see there that reacts to hand movements, so it uses proximity sensors and lights up according to where your hand is. And I put little slide films, like Kodachrome slide films on it to essentially light up based on where your hand is. This was me on the day of my graduation ceremony, going home and soldering for 3 hours straight because the showcase was the next day. That's my cat joining me. And I got to showcase it at Nerd Night as part of Hardware Meetup last year, which was really cool. And I also got to go to Sunrise Sunrise by Blackbird in Sydney last year as part of the program, which was also a really cool opportunity to meet other like-minded people, other founders, a lot of really creative thinkers. This was also during my gap 6 months and my side quest maxing era, and if you don't know what that means, I envy you. I graduated, I went to Europe with my family, I started cross-stitching, I helped on a couple film sets, I modeled for a hairdressing and makeup student as part of their coursework at Seville's, which was kind of crazy. And then I also spoke on a panel for project management, which is not my discipline at all. I don't know why I was there, but I talked about women in engineering and in leadership, which was also something I'm still really passionate about, so it was a cool opportunity from that perspective. More side quests. I made album cover art for my friend who makes music. I participated in 48 Hours Film Fest. I joined a quilt making collective as part of expressing queer joy through quilt blocks, and my first time ever using a sewing machine, I decided I was going to sew together 81 squares. Don't do that. I had a lot of help. I did cyanotype for the first time, and I made these socks. It's my cyanotype socks, which is really cool. And then this was technically this year, but I just roped it in because vibes, and I started selling zines and photography prints at a couple small markets. So a lot of really cool side quests just to explore creativity, but again, did not know what I was doing, didn't have a career trajectory. I did apply for grad roles, and I got a few offers, but I didn't end up taking them because they didn't really sit right with me, didn't really feel like what I wanted to do. I was still trying to discover what path I was on. But that's when I got the opportunity to be a creative technologist in Montreal at Automata. And so, bit of nepotism here, I will admit. This is my cousin's fiance's company. But I did also interview for it properly and did get the role, so half nepotism. But it was easily the coolest work experience I've ever done. I essentially got to learn an entirely new program called Touch Designer. It's essentially used for things like interactive installations and other sort of audio reactive visual work. I used it primarily on one project which involved a skating rink in Montreal called the Esplanade Tranquille. And it's essentially projection mapping onto the skating rink and using LiDAR to generate point clouds to track the skaters' movements. And then with Touch Designer, we're essentially programming graphics to respond to skaters' movements. So if you have a skater who's maybe like moving over a certain element on the, projected onto the rink, like a button, it could like press and do something. So that was kind of the idea. I worked primarily on this middle like version. We had like 3 different like game modes essentially. So I had things like cannons that shoot out lava that like respond to your movements and follow you around, or I had buoys that would like bounce off of you or off of the other buoys and move in like a fluid-like manner. So it was a lot of coding, but very much creative coding. Like that's quite literally, I'm credited as a creative programmer, which is very cool. And that's not something I even knew existed before last year. Like I did not know that was a field at all. I didn't know this was something that people also like wanted to pay for and like wanted to experience, but it was really cool. Again, getting to work on a multidisciplinary team, doing a creative project that other people in the public could get to enjoy. And it's kind of those elements from engineering review coming back in. Yeah, this is me testing it on the ice, which is very cool. Yeah, really love this project. And that led to today, where I'm now doing my Master's of Design at AUT. And I knew I wanted to do my Master's after that experience because I wanted to develop my skills in interactive installations and gain some credibility and experience in that area, portfolio building, and also develop my own creative self-expression. I'm also a TA part-time at the Digital Research Hub, which is within the School of Architecture at the University of Auckland, which is really full circle for me because in high school I thought I wanted to do architecture. And now I'm in the School of Architecture, but I'm not doing architecture. I'm not really a TA in the sense that I don't teach anything, but I'm working on a couple installation projects, one of which will be at the engineering building at UOA on Open Day, which I think is August 29th. So definitely swing by and take a look out for a bunch of screens if you want to see that. This is like a really small sneak peek, and it will be interactive. Aside from that, a lot of my master's work at the moment is looking at how we interface with digital technology through tangible means. So think of things like even this, like a clicker. It's a very physical thing. I have to press a button to interact with the technology, and that's sort of a tangible thing. It's something I'm physical, I'm moving, I'm holding it in some way. But I'm looking at more sort of unconventional ways, like with textiles, for example. So I've done a lot of like interactive weavings, weaving in conductive inputs through like copper strips, essentially, and having that interface with digital technology. And then in the future, I'm hoping to continue kind of exploring that a bit more. My research started out a bit more site-specific, so I did like site analysis. So I did this model, which was really cool because I got to visit a restricted site under supervision. But my research isn't necessarily in that direction anymore, so still kind of figuring it out. But that's kind of where we are today. And so, key takeaways from all that. The first thing I want to stress is just go on side quests and say yes to things within reason. Obviously, don't say yes to everything, which I'm a victim of doing. But I think it's important to kind of recognize when maybe there's an opportunity to try something new or to meet new people and just going for it, even if it doesn't seem like something you're good at or something you're like used to doing. Because I think a lot of those things can come back in your life in ways that you don't really expect. And especially pay attention to what piques your interest from there and where you choose to spend your free time. So for me, with engineering review, that was a really clear indicator that I wanted to be on a creative team. And things like textiles, like I've had this huge interest in it since last year, since reading about it, and since working in things like the Queer Joy Quilt Collective. A lot of those things have made me realize that there was kind of an interest there that I wanted to chase. And keep creating constantly. I mean, creating is a much valued human skill, especially now it feels so threatened with the age of AI. And so getting to explore that and exercise that skill, you're all good. Getting to exercise that skill yourself, I think, is also really important. It makes you a better person, it makes you more patient, more understanding, and it broadens your worldview when you're getting to try new skills and talk with new people. And again, you never know where those come in handy again. And I would say unconventional paths are possible. That's something that I did not know. Going out of engineering especially, I thought I had to do the typical apply for grad role, get in, move up from there path, but I really didn't feel that it sat right with me or sat right with what I knew I wanted out of a career. And so being able to explore and take the time to figure that out was really valuable, where I could realize that there were unconventional paths that I could chase and that no one's gonna judge you for not going the linear straight path if that's not what you want to do. And finally, with that, be kind to yourself, and it's okay to not have things figured out, because I'm, I think, living proof of that. Even now, I'm a little bit unsure of where I'm going. I think after my master's, I'm hoping to just continue doing this, continue working in interactive installations and as a creative technologist, but that could change. And that's okay. You know, you can always pivot in the future. You don't have to stay in the same path. And definitely have that kindness for yourself to take the time to sit with where you're at and figure things out, and know that you don't need to have it figured out at any time. There's no sort of set time scale or like path you have to be on. And that's something I think I learned a little bit the hard way, but I'm also glad that I learned that and didn't necessarily try and force myself into a path just because I thought that's what I had to do. Yeah, and that's pretty much everything. There's a lot more I could say about things like women and gender diverse individuals in fields where STEM and art are intersecting, or even just in STEM. And I'm happy to answer questions about that, just couldn't quite fit it into this presentation. But that's everything from me. Yeah.
Thank you. One thing I want to point out actually is I think you need to give yourself a bit more credit that you have kind of created your own path at the same time.
There's a lot of people who've been in this space before me, though, and I do want to acknowledge that, because obviously it wouldn't be possible without all of that input from other people. And I think I've been pleasantly surprised by the number of people who have been working in that space already, and I think have set that up for myself. But I think also for myself, being able to kind of reflect and see how all of these different facets of my life have led to this, like photography, engineering, like all of it still coming into play. I mean, a lot of the work I did at Automata was programming, but I also had to relearn vector maths, for example, which is not what I was expecting. It's really cool seeing how those all intersect and do come together in the end.
Yeah. Awesome. Sweet. Thank you so much, Sophia.
Thank you.
So I'm Janelle. I am a manufacturing manager for the Space Systems division at Rocket Lab. So we have 3 divisions at the moment. So we obviously have our 2 launch divisions. So we have Electron and Neutron. And then our 3rd division is Space Systems, which covers our satellite and our satellite components. And it's actually one of our fastest growing areas, and is one of the areas that's actually bringing in revenue. So we like to lord that over some of the other teams. So
Absolutely.
there you go. So I have a background in manufacturing engineering. I kind of fell into that out of university. So my experience with hardware has always been on the manufacturing side. So robotics, automation, factory production lines, that kind of thing, rather than sort of product development. So I also have a background in mechatronics engineering from U of A as well. And I speak a little bit more to it a bit later, but I spent 10 years working in the UK as well. So. So I've kind of started this as a bit of a recap of my career, and then at the end I've sort of looked at some reflections and maybe some learnings, but sort of a bit of student work experience. So you've got to remember back when I did this, there wasn't as many wonderful creative opportunities, shall we say. So I spent a summer working for Ulrich Aluminium in their maintenance team, and we did the factory shutdown. And it was long hours, but it was actually really good fun. And I was the only woman on the team, and was the first woman on their team ever. And I found out as I was leaving that job that the day before I started, they'd been told they had to take down all the dirty calendars that were on the wall. And that summer I spent a lot of time welding, which was super fun. Actually, women are really good at welding, because we can be quite, what's the word I'm looking for? We're good at intricate work, detail-orientated work, taking pride in what we do. So that was really, really fun. I then also spent a summer at Fisher & Paykel Appliances. So I was working in the laundry division, mainly in the sort of the injection moulding area. And I had an amazing mentor at that time, who I also met up with later on in my career. And he was fantastic, like really free with his knowledge, taught me a whole lot, and I learnt so much that summer and had a really, really great time. And that factory was absolutely incredible. It was such a shame that unfortunately that left New Zealand, but yeah, the factories they had out here at East Tamaki were pretty impressive,
Those sound like great internships.
And then out of university, my first grad role was at Fisher & Paykel Healthcare, alongside probably half of New Zealand graduates. But it was a great place to start my career, get a really good grounding. I was really lucky as well, actually, that while a lot of my colleagues and sort of friends at that level were doing a lot of paperwork, I fell into what was called the capacity team, and we were actively looking at production line improvements, new production lines. So I was really lucky that was the team I fell into. And so I didn't really know much about manufacturing engineering at university. I fell into it sort of, I guess, a little bit by luck. Obviously, my student jobs had helped a lot with that. And so I worked on a new infant circuits, like breathing apparatus sort of line, lots of robotics. So yeah, that was really fun. I did a bit of a mix of a mechanical and a little bit of programming as well when I was there on the PLCs. And what I really liked about healthcare is the environment they set up, so that there's opportunity for hands-on building, all of that practical work. They've got their sort of, the workshops. You can go and use a mill or a lathe. I think that setup was really, really good.
I'm so jealous of the workshop they have there.
Then I'd had enough of that and decided it was time for a bit of adventure. So I up and left for London, thinking that I'd go for a couple of years, and I didn't come back for close to 11 years. So here's a few shots of some of the travel that I've done while I was over there. So obviously it's so easy to travel around, and I made the most of that while I lived there. But while I was there, I still worked in manufacturing engineering. So I worked in this company. We're actually in London, which is very unusual to have a big engineering firm actually in London. Generally they were outside of London or in the Midlands or something like that. And this company manufactured medical devices. So one of the things we were looking at was an inhaler. They did a whole lot of diagnostic test kits, kind of any of the plastics that were involved in sort of medical applications. And I'd come from the medical background in healthcare, and I also had the injection moulding, so it kind of just naturally sort of suited me. So I enjoyed that. I got thrown in the deep end and basically project managed the install of a new line in my 20s, which was pretty overwhelming. Also involved having to put in new electrical supply to the building, and I had no idea how the local councils worked or things like that. So it was all, a lot of learning on the fly.
That's crazy.
So we had 4 moulding machines, 10 different mould tools that made up, that's the product up the top right there. And some sort of automated lines sort of on the end of that did vision systems and ultrasonically welded a couple of components, did QC checking. So that was really fun and a lot of money. And these were the glossy pictures that ended up on their website. So it looks really good, but just to prove I was actually there, this is me pushing it. So it was on air skates, so actually I could push this big injection moulding machine around this floor. But we had to do all of the building fit out, so I had to manage all of the contractors doing that, manage the buying of the machines, manage the automation we didn't actually do ourselves. We bought that in, but oversaw all of that.
Awesome. That's full on.
Yeah. Then that was kind of like a sort of mid-career level, I guess, moving to more of a senior engineering, and then time to move on. And I actively made the decision that I wanted to try something a little bit different. I felt like I'd done the medical thing for a little while, and I was worried that I'd get pigeonholed into that if I didn't look at something different. So I ended up working at a company called Stanhope Seater, also just outside of London, actually in Surrey. Fantastic company. They made test equipment for oil and gas, so all petrochemical. So any kind of parameter of a fuel, they would make a product to test for. The company size was pretty small. It was family run. 2 brothers owned it and ran it. So about 60 people. And there was a really big product range. So going from, going to this really high mix but low volume sort of manufacturing was quite different for me as well, which was fun. And prolific at making new products. Like there'd be 5 or 6 products a year, and some of them were maybe just small tweaks, and some of them were brand new products. So I worked on all of these ones. The top right there was my favourite. It was called the Fiji, which is the FAME in jet instrument, and it was looking for biofuel contaminants in jet fuel. So really interesting technology. You'd put your jet fuel sample in there and it would tell you how many parts per million of the bio was in there. And it's really mainly for places like the US or Europe, where they will use the same pipelines to run fuel. So you'll run your diesel and then you'll run your jet and then you'll run your biofuel, and of course it picks up the contaminant. So yeah, super interesting. Lots of travel with that job. The products, when they needed servicing, they decided that the guys on the shop floor were maybe not the best image for the company. So I got to go to quite a few places to service machines, which was kind of fun. It was not really my job description, but I'll take it. Even got flown back to New Zealand for...
Really?
Yeah, fantastic. And when I was there, I got my Lean Six Sigma Green Belt as well. So I enjoyed doing that. Did quite an in-depth project that helped with both the company and also sort of got my certification.
Could you tell me a bit more about that certification? Like, what is like in like Lean specifically?
Yeah. So they have levels of belts. So you can do yellow belt, it's sort of like introductory. Green belt means you've done a little bit more advanced study. Generally, it's some coursework, and then you do a 3 to 6 month kind of project and write that up, and you send that away in like the certifiers market. And then you can go on to do your black belt and master black belt, and yeah, so you can get quite involved and move up the levels.
Awesome. I hadn't heard of that before. Thanks.
Yeah. So it's things like, yeah, how do you run a project in to Lean principles or Six Sigma principles? Yeah. And while I was at that company, they won a couple of awards, which was really cool. So they have a thing called the Queen's Award, or it's now called the King's Award, and you can apply for it in different categories. And so when I was there, they won one for innovation and for international trade. And they send someone from the royal family out, and so it becomes this big deal. And I was so excited that we were going to get Prince Harry or Prince William, and we got the Duke of Kent.
I actually got to meet Prince Harry, actually.
Really?
Yeah, he came to New Zealand, and I got invited to the museum to meet him. I don't know why. Like, they just invited a bunch of random
exciting.
young people. Yeah, anyway, sorry.
Well, these are the two brothers that owned the company. They got to go up to Buckingham Palace, and they got to meet the Queen. But we got the Duke of Kent. He was great. It was a good day. But there's me on the right with my team, holding the product that got the Innovation Award.
What's the product there?
So that's a H2S analyzer. So it's looking for hydrogen sulfide in fuels.
Awesome.
More of a safety test. And then, so that was my 10, 11 years in London, time to come home. So I moved back down here, and this was kind of, Sophia talked about it a little bit, like all of the kind of the things you've done that sort of come together and work out towards a role, and I've kind of put some of the things there that I had that worked out really well for my current role at Rocket Lab. So I had a little bit of knowledge about fuels, I knew how to do lean manufacturing. I'd done both high-speed and low-speed manufacturing at that point. I had some leadership experience because I'd been running a team at my last company before that. So yeah, it kind of just came together and worked out quite well that I started as a principal manufacturing engineer, but I had a team at that point, and they were supporting the electron build. So that was 2019, so 7 years I've been at Rocket Lab. And then, so I spent a little bit of time on Electron, and then kind of migrated across and started working on, actually, what I talk about a little bit more on the next slide is we developed a product called a reaction wheel, and I moved on to developing the production line for that. And that was kind of the precursor a little bit to our space systems division. So at the time we were also building Capstone, which was the moon mission, and we had this reaction wheel line going, which was creating this component. And that has now morphed into being what is our space systems division. So I talk about there, so what our spacecraft and then our reaction wheel line. So after the Capstone moon mission, we kind of moved into doing a bit more spacecraft, and so my team have worked on, we did a launch for Varda Space, and they were doing pharmaceutical manufacturing on orbit. So they found that the drug that they were making came together better without gravity, and so we would launch their payload, it would stay on orbit for a little while, they'd make their pharmaceutical, and then we deorbited it and brought it back to the Utah desert or the Australian outback. and then they'd come and collect their thing. It was quite exciting.
That's a big extension on manufacturing.
Yeah,
for you.
exactly, right? And then, so my team were also involved in the Escapade spacecraft. So they're currently on their way to Mars at the moment, due to arrive sort of later 2027. And recently just launched Victus Haze. So that's the one where we're sort of playing cat and mouse with another spacecraft. And that was the one that we sort of did a really fast turnaround on. That was with the Space Force, and we launched that within 16 hours of the phone call.
Awesome.
Yeah, so we've grown that team now to sort of there's 10 manufacturing engineers and just over 20 technicians. So in terms of reaction wheels, it's one of the main projects I've kind of worked on in recent years. So Rocket Lab actually purchased a company called Sinclair Interplanetary sort of 2020, and they're based in Toronto, and they were already manufacturing reaction wheels and star trackers. And with their expertise and their help, we developed a new sized one basically here in Auckland, and we make that here. That they sent across a couple of their team members, and it was right around the 2021 lockdown, the really long Auckland lockdown, and they got sort of stuck here, which worked out really well for us because we had the expertise for a while, so it was great. But I think it was one of the kind of better projects that we've done. We made sure we had design and manufacturing together, so we all sat in the same office. We had instant feedback. The designers would do something, and us as manufacturing could turn around and say, oh no, we don't like that, that's too hard, that's too tricky, and we got really good input early. So things like I mentioned there about there's features so that we can automate it, we can actually, there's something to grab to index the rotor, and so yeah, it's been a really good product to work on, and we developed the production line in parallel with the product. So you can see the team there pretending to drop a wheel. Sometimes it's hard to get photos cleared. The marketing team cleared me to show that one. So you can see there that we're sending them out now and like by the box load. Yep. So it's super exciting.
So what exactly is a reaction wheel?
So a reaction wheel you put it on your satellite to control the attitude control.
Oh, cool.
So if you've got something like a camera or a sensor and you want it to point a particular direction, you want it to point your camera down, as you're rotating on orbit, you need to keep moving your satellite so it's pointing in the right direction. So a reaction wheel is basically it's an electric motor with sort of like a flywheel, a bit like so your rotor is that mass, you've got that rotating mass. Obviously, if you spin that, your spacecraft's going to spin in the opposite direction. So if you put a reaction wheel on all of your axes, you can control the direction of the spacecraft.
Awesome.
And one of the other things we did also is that line is the first line at Rocket Lab that was certified to AS9100, which is a aerospace standard. So that was pretty cool.
Awesome.
There's a lot of work that went into that.
I'm sure.
Cool, and a few more photos just to prove that I did touch some hardware. So this is sort of the stator and the rotor there, and we've got a whole lot of automated lines that run all the full tests. So this is running a full suite of performance testing. Cool. And then, so my side quest or side job at the moment is I'm actually chairperson for Women in Space. So we call ourselves WIZANs. So we launched back in 2021 as a professional network for women working in the space sector. There's not that many of us, we've got to stick together. So that's been a really fun to be part of and to meet some of the other amazing women in the country doing amazing things. And so sort of we run events for our own members, professional members, we have tertiary members, and then we have a club for high school students as well. So there's one lady in the audience here that's helped a lot on our high school club. So that's
awesome.
And then I just sort of put together maybe some key kind of lessons that I've learned in my career as a woman in male-dominated sectors, or key reflections maybe. And I'm sure none of these are any surprises to anybody that's working in the sector or in a male-dominated area. But one of the ones that comes up again and again is make sure to be building those practical skills, building those hands-on skills, especially for younger women. So every year I interview for interns, particularly engineering interns, and it's absolutely noticeable that young men have an advantage at that age. If you're looking at, early university level, they generally, naturally have done a lot more than maybe women have, unless you're lucky enough that you've got a dad who tinkers, or, I
do.
that you've kind of had that role model, but I find a lot haven't. So it's really something to get stuck into at university, because I find that the gap only accelerates from there, because you'll find that young man will then get the role because he's got that, and then the next year he'll get the next role because he had the previous work experience, and so the gap just grows. So I think it's really important to show that you can do other things and not just the academic studies. The tightrope walk is real, and I think I watched a little bit of a previous one, and someone had talked about this as well, that it can be exhausting maintaining that balance as a woman, in terms of if you're too hard or too bossy, you're a bitch. If you're too soft, you're weak.
Yep.
And so you have to kind of always maintain that line. And I think I worried about that a lot more when I was younger, and now I don't care if they think I'm bossy. So it does get easier. But yeah, one of the other things I sort of said was stay true to who you are, stay true to yourself. And I know I have missed out on roles in the past because I wasn't that alpha male leader that the hiring manager expected. But I've kind of stayed true to how I want to be as a manager and a worker and a leader and a role model. Yep. And I've managed to, I'm
do some pretty amazing things, may I
got
say.
into the role that I'm in and things like that. So, lack of role models. There's not many women out there to look up to.
Especially women in hardware specifically.
So I found that I was trying to think for this, if I'd had any, and I was struggling. I was really struggling. But that's part of what I like to do as part of Women in Space, so that we're being the role models for the next lot that are coming through. And confidence gap. This is kind of around how it's proven that men will apply for a role when they hold 60% of the attributes, and women will wait to the 90s. Yep. I see that all the time at work. The young guys are very, very confident, but us women should be too. Our voices are just as important. So,
absolutely.
A little bit more around the boys' club. You'll find this, but I sort of said there are great male allies as well. Just need to find them. We've got some amazing ones at work as well, which have always been super supportive. But us as women, we need to support each other and not pull up the ladder after you. I know some people think, I did it tough, so they should too, but I hate that attitude. It's awful. Just a little comment, recruitment processes can favour men because they were designed by men. So it's really important for us to maintain our networking and make the most of our opportunities, because often it's who you know, not what you know sometimes. And that's a little bit around the boys' club. They kind of have maybe a bit more of that networking, or they naturally get support. Yep. Often you'll see a more senior male will sort of think, I'm going to mentor or take this person under my wing, and I don't think that happens as much for females.
Yeah, absolutely.
Work-life balance. Especially for women with families. I don't have any children to worry about, but I just have no idea how some of these women can manage it all.
It's crazy.
Balance it all, it's incredible, and shorter working life. So that's kind of around the family thing, but also I'm coming to the point where I'm conscious that at that upper end, when ageism starts to kick in, I feel like it's a lot sooner for women maybe than it is for men.
Absolutely.
Sort of men are considered in their prime of their careers in their 40s and early 50s, and early 50s is probably where women are maybe not considered that anymore. So I think it's really important to, as Sophia said, chase what you really enjoy and love, because we don't know how long we're going to be able to do this for, and.
It's very interesting there, because there aren't actually a lot of women leaders in this kind of space to begin with that are getting towards that age as well.
That's true. Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you so much, Janelle. That was an amazing presentation. And last up, we have Raani.
You've given me the tough job of going after these two amazing women.
You also do some pretty incredible stuff, which I'm excited to hear about.
So, who am I? I guess I'm a lot. So, apart from being a sister, an auntie, a cousin to 50 other cousins, I'm a robotics and automation engineer and project manager at a company called Motion Design. So, we build custom-made machines for very custom applications. And when I'm not doing that, the thing that is my big passion is I am actually the National Commissioner for Scouts at Aotearoa. Anyone here heard of Scouts? Few hands? Yep, so first up, girls are in Scouts. We actually make up 28%, and globally there is 29 million of us. So, pretty cool. So, as National Commissioner, if you imagine the entire organisation is on a cruise ship, all 12,000 young people, our 8,000 volunteers, they're all members of this cruise ship, wanting to get three things: have fun, gain new life experiences, and meet new friends. And then we have a board. So I'm on the member of the board, running the show, looking after the board, and then we've got the staff who actually keep our ship running. And the National Commissioner's job is to sit, listen to all three groups, which is a lot, and then work out, where is our ship going to sail? How are we going to get to the next port, to the next big event? And bringing everyone on that same journey together. So that's what I do when I'm not at work. But at work, I have fun playing with robots. Working with robots. And then we also, as a work team, join crazy competitions to test our engineering skills. Anyone here heard of the Red Bull flu tag? Yeah, so we decided to join.
This happens. It's okay. Don't worry. It's on a timer.
We decided to join that particular competition, and I was the pilot. I'm afraid of heights. I was the pilot because they walked around. My boss walked into the office, looked around and said, "Raani, you're going to be the pilot." And I was like, "What? Why?" And he's like, "Well, women are smaller and lighter than men." I was like, "Uh-huh." And he's like, "And you're the only woman here." It's like, well, I can't argue with that fact. And you're like, "Yep, so we've signed you up already anyway." Okay, thank you.
How scared of heights are you? Like,
I don't go on the log flume. The log, everyone here know the log flume at Rainbow's End? Yep, I can't do it. It wobbles and it shakes and you might fall out.
that sounds like a plane.
Yeah, they both fall off a platform at 8 metres tall. But they were very nice. They put a sign that said "Happy Birthday" because it was my 23rd birthday. So they allowed me to reach that age. So yeah, quickly going through the photos. This here is a machine called Rosa. The customer gets to name their own machine.
Oh, that's nice.
And this machine subsamples and takes 50 microliters of milk or cream and then puts it in the deep well. Because people at a very, very big dairy place that may start with F were getting RSI and wrist injuries from having to crack open these cartons of milk to be able to do that manually. And so this machine takes that away from them so that their wrists are literally saved. And because it is stabbing, they decided to name it after Rosa Diaz from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. But to get it past their bosses, it's actually called the Robotic Operation Subsampling Assistant.
Classic.
And then on the right-hand side, that's me speaking at the Asia Pacific Youth Forum for Scouting, so where I was actually able to present and teach 500 young people from around Asia Pacific on how to govern and manage big organisations, which was a lot of fun because, yeah, they gave me a call and I was like, yeah, sure, sounds great. Then the deadline came closer and closer and closer. And then the next day the General Secretary walks up to me and goes, "That was great." I was like, "Thank you, always happy to help." And he goes, "Hey, she said yes." I was like, "To what?" And they're like, well, the person who was going to deliver this presentation at the next conference tomorrow can't make it. What do you mean can't make it? Their flight's cancelled. So you're presenting, you just said happy to help. Oh, really? I was like, okay. And they're like, you got an 8-hour drive from the top of Taiwan to the bottom of Taiwan. You can review the notes in. Do I have a choice?
Wow.
And then down around the corner, we've got, that's me with one of my projects, another dairy project. I'll talk about that one soon. And then here at a governance strategy workshop, getting a very diverse group of people to come together and agree on what will be the next 10-year organisational strategy in Scouting. And this one here is a little baby robot. It's super, super cute, literally only this big. And we're working out how do we get, who here, we all work with hardware, right? Who here has had to put resistors into tiny little connectors? Who here thinks that's a terrible job? So I built a machine to do that for a company called Petronic, who make fire alarm panels. Because they had 3 people who did that job consistently, and they hated it. That was their life for 40 hours a week. Okay. So, the one question everyone asks is, what does a project manager or a robotics automation engineer do? So, this here is that big robot head you saw before. And what we do as a project manager who also gets to do the design and the build is step 1 is actually going on site with the customer. So I walk alongside the customer through their workshops and look at what are the challenges, what are the opportunities, what are the things we can do, what can physically fit in the space, or as in this site, how much shortcuts do the architects make on building this place, and how thick is your concrete? Because there's a lot of G-force swinging around that. And then you take that, you come up with a couple ideas while you're sitting there, walking through, talking with the customer, then you take it back. And then I quite like to start with like a big, really big concept idea, lots of big blocks and chunks, and then you share it with the customer and go, what do you think? Sometimes I love it. More often than not, they ask how much. And then you work out with their budget and constraints and you pull it through into something that might work. Emphasis on the might. Then you start the simulations and you go, actually, will this work? Is my robot going to run into a point where it just cannot move? Am I going to get stuck? Am I going to hit a beam in the ceiling? So you do a whole lot of simulations. Then when that works, you go, okay, now we'll refine all my different models and start refining so we can start ordering some parts. And then, of course, you then remember you have to do the software. So you write all the code ready to put the whole thing together. Now, I'll be really honest. I'm not that, I've never grown up being hands-on, and so I have had the opportunity through work to become hands-on, but I really can't weld. So quite often I work with other contractors to come in and do a lot of the specialist work and actually put together the final robot head.
What is that robot doing exactly? Why is it spilling the milk? Is it meant to do that?
Yes. So this is a company called, who here knows much about the dairy industry? A few hands? Okay. So what sets New Zealand apart compared to every other country in the world is that we have the highest number of herd tests. And we test per individual cow. Oh. So LIC will go to a farm and they will collect samples of milk in the morning and in the afternoon. And then when you go into their labs, all the machines are done by Motion Design and are managed by me. This particular robot, at the end of the process, so they run, because we go every single cow, there is 90,000 samples a day to test.
Wow.
And if you were to use that if it was a single-use plastic, that's a lot of plastic to be thrown out. And these containers cost a bit, so the company doesn't want to do that. Yep. So you could hire, and they had 22 people washing all these containers every single day. And they were getting literally RSI from lifting trays up into a sink, tipping the milk, because That tray would have about 15 kilos of milk, those 2 trays. So lifting, tipping, washing, repeat. Over and over and over again. So this robot takes trays of milk off a trolley, tips it out, and then puts it on, and there's a conveyor underneath, puts it onto a conveyor which takes it through a 9-metre long industrial washing machine.
Awesome.
And then at the other end, we add preservatives in, and then it gets dried, it gets stacked, and goes straight back out to the farm. And with this process and all the different technologies we put into this place, we can have samples and results out within 48 hours, and the trays are back on the farm within 48 hours.
Wow, that's very impressive.
Yeah, it's pretty cool when you think about it. When you first walk in, though, you're hit with the smell of rotten milk.
Yeah, because I'm like, is it pouring it on the floor? No.
No, so there's a drip tray underneath, and then it goes into a special trade waste. And yeah, when you're working with a customer, so I'm on the phone with this customer a couple of hours a week, you learn a lot about the products you're working with. So who here knows that milk is almost like a non-Newtonian liquid and will very easily travel uphill? Yep. I learned that one the hard way when I was like, oh, let me just have a look at this trunking, pulls it open, and a whole lot of rotten milk fell down on me. And I was like, but the milk is down there. Literally 2 meters down. How? And they were like, watch this. Turn the machine on, and the slightest bit of vibration and the milk traveled up the posts and into the trunking. And I was like, gravity goes down, guys. And they're like, tell that to the milk.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so I did not appreciate wearing rotten milk in my hair for the rest of that day and then flying home from Christchurch. Okay, so I've been asked to give some life lessons. So how did I get to where I am today? So I very nicely told myself that choosing to study mechatronics was a good start, but I'll be really honest with you, I didn't choose it. I couldn't make a decision. I flipped a coin. Being half Indian, I have a very traditional mum who was like, you're a girl, you become a lawyer, a doctor, or an accountant. Engineering wasn't an option. So I was sitting there going, oh, what do I choose? What do I choose? I can't make a decision, I'll just flip a coin. And it landed on engineering.
What was on the, engineering specifically. What was the other side?
Doing biomedical to become a doctor. I was limited in options, I'm half Indian. So yeah, I flipped a coin and my family were like, what the hell are you doing? You don't know anything practical. And I was like, I've built a Bunnings kit set before. And they're like, yeah, I'm not sure if that will cut it. And so, yeah, I started off with I don't do anything practical, I've got an Allen key at home. And that kind of reflected in how I chose my internships. So my first internship was with ACOM, and I got seconded on my second day to the City Rail Link. And there I designed the data and security for the train stations. Oops. And put that together. And that was really sort of driven from that lack of confidence to give something practical a go. But eventually I kind of got over myself and said, well, there's only one way to learn, and that's to push forward. And I put my name in the hat to go and get an internship with Rokos, who are now known as Drone Deploy. And so that there is the first Boston Dynamics spot in New Zealand, because they were under the pump doing things, and they were like, unbox it please. And I'm sitting going, really? It looks a bit fancy. Okay. And then they're like, and go install all this stuff on top of it. I was like, okay, we're really pushing that one Allen key approach. I did sign up for this. And then getting into sort of the software and working out physically, how do you test the limits of robots? So that was a really good learning. But I have to say, my situation of not knowing hardware isn't the only one. And when I look at Scouts, I want to use this story up here as an example. So in Scouts, young people gain competencies in the outdoors, and we also inspire them to lead projects for themselves to create a better world. And so our young people would come in and were very enthused and upset about pests in the local area, and they wanted to do something about it. And so one of them goes, let's build rat traps. I was like, okay, let's build rat traps. And I was like, okay, we can do that. There is the tool library. I could go and get a whole lot of tools to build rat traps with this many young people. But there's only 2 leaders. 2 leaders, and there's actually more kids. They're just not allowed to be in photos. And 25 young kids with hard tools. Okay, this is kind of scary. Let's call them the parents.
Oh, yes. Yep, that works.
And as you can see here, we've got 4 parents in that photo. Every single one of those parents rocked up with a brand new kit set with a drill kit from Bunnings. And I was like, oh, these all look pretty nice. And they were like, yeah, we've never had the opportunity to learn how to use these tools ourselves. You're teaching the kids, so you could teach us.
It's meant to be the other way around.
Yes, but I'm just looking at a small scout group in Green Bay as an example, and I would say this is actually pretty representative across the whole country, because more and more people just hire a tradie or get someone in to do a bit of home maintenance. So a lot of these practical skills are just disappearing from the narrative of growing up in New Zealand.
We also grow up with that mentality about like number 8 wire, right? So
Yeah.
it's like what we're meant to be able to do.
Exactly. And so when I look at a lot of the work that I'm doing in scouting and the things I'm able to empower and inspire, here are a bunch of young people getting the opportunity. Top right, they're learning how to change a tyre on a trailer and how to use a jack. All of them have stuck their head underneath to actually find out what sits under a trailer. We can work with groups like the Men's Working Shed, who give us access to bring youth through and run projects together. And surprisingly, I've actually got a photo here of a raft that floats. I can tell you now that's not common. But learning how to take home goods or goods that have been donated and put it together into a rafting application. These are all opportunities that don't happen nowadays. When I look at the education sector, many schools don't do school camps anymore.
Really?
They've become too risk averse. And so because the board hold liability, they just won't. And you don't have the education outside the classroom anymore. And I went to a high school who decided that the hard tech room was too dangerous. So if you wanted to do digital design or do product design, you created your drawings and you sent it off-site and you got back your laser cuts. And then you assembled it with glue. And I think this is a narrative that I think all of us kind of have a challenge to help try change. So I've chosen my passion area of scouting and empowering that. And fingers crossed, when I have time, I'm going to actually open up, we do little specialist schools, and I'm hoping to open a robotics school. So, eventually. So yeah, the plan is they'll come in for a week and build robots. Okay, next point. So how do I get to where I am? Taking advantage of every opportunity. That's the nice way of just saying I can't say no to things.
That seems to be a theme tonight.
Yes. But there's a real advantage because that puts you in a lot of different opportunities, meet a whole lot of new people. So when someone puts an opportunity out there, allow yourself to be voluntold. And when you don't get asked, volunteer. And then commit to a continuous journey of growth. I hate sitting up here and doing all this speaking. If you knew me in high school, I was the one that was close to tears on speeches day. It's consistently putting yourself out there to build your confidence, build your experience. Because what's the worst going to happen? You're going to have a terrible evening, get a bit embarrassed, but at least you got that experience. Yeah, keep putting yourself out there. And last, he aha te mea nui o te ao, he tangata, he tangata, he tangata. What's the most important thing in the world? The people, the people, the people. So it's about that networking. Take the opportunity to go out there, meet new people, understand what is the human aspect of the project, what is the human challenge, how are people going to interact with things that you design, you build. You're not building something for another robot to work with. Someone is going to have to interact with it at the end. And it's also groups like this that we all live for, because it's the thing that gives us joy. And here's just a couple of photos to sort of demonstrate various environments, and it's the people aspect. So this bottom one, I was talking about Rosa. That's the whole team coming in and seeing it in their lab for the first time. Watching it going, I had a few people cry and go, yes, I don't have to see the physio every week now. And the same thing with this one. I had a call and I was like, I'm really sorry, your project's going to be delayed. And like the lady burst into tears. She's like, I hate my job. They're offering me to go and do another job, and I really want to do it. I was like, I'm sorry. But yeah, it's all about the people and the different environments. Yeah, this was a fun project.
What was that one?
It started with the customer arriving on site and going, I want to tell you had the job. And I was like, oh, thank you. And he drops 2 kilos of manuka honey on my desk. Here's your testing product. I was like, you mean lunch? But yeah, hopefully I gave some insights.
I think you gave many amazing insights. Thank you, Raani.
Thank you. I'll give you that.
I have a question which I didn't put on the Slido because it was kind of hard to summarize concisely. So I work in an engineering company, and there's often times where I have confidence in doing something, but within my team, sometimes it feels that if I show that I'm confident, I'm worried that it will offend someone else who seems, sometimes, I don't know if it's the way that they speak, but sometimes the way that they speak is to almost keep you in your position, if that makes sense. So how do you show that you actually know what you're talking about without stepping on their toes?
I see Janelle smiling during that whole question.
I'll be really honest, it's a hard one. The key part, this is going to sound really weird, but body language. So you can make a statement and just sound, you don't have to sound aggressive. People will call you aggressive because you're a woman about it. You just make it as a statement, but make sure that when you make that statement, your chin is up, your shoulders are back, and you're standing straight. And you look at the person, you look at the people in the eyes, or if that's hard, look at their forehead. You're making a statement without being aggressive, and you just need to say it simply. I think I can do this. Or give me an opportunity, I think I can do this. And just look at their forehead with a good body posture. And it puts them in the back foot where they have to actually find a reason to tell you no. Whereas if you're like, I think I can do this, then they'll use that as the one reason to give it to someone else. Even if you don't feel confident, just good posture, shoulders back, looking up. Any other insights?
No, I was just laughing because I was thinking, actually, if this is a room of men, that probably wouldn't even be a question. I agree, yeah. Act confident because you've probably got this, and I know you'll find this over and over in your career. You will probably have to reassert yourself and reprove yourself. Also, when you're surrounded by a good team, I would say at Rocket Lab this doesn't happen to me as much, and I hope to the other women there as well. When you've got a really collaborative team, everyone's working together, it can be really, really good. So maybe find an ally or someone that's got your back to support your idea, or, you know, there's probably select people that you might have to work on. But yeah, find somebody that will support it as well.
I've noticed in the past I had a particular boss that if I was more confident, he would get very off-put by it. So if the more like quiet I was, he might actually consider it, which is very interesting. I think he would take it as if I was being aggressive when I was confident. So it really depends on the person.
Yeah. Top tip, don't be loud. You say it neutral volume when you say it, because as soon as you become loud, that's considered aggressive. It's neutral volume. Weirdly, dress as if you're ready for the role. Dress as if you're ready for the role. I know I'm wearing earrings and I got put a little bit of makeup on because it's not something I wear to work, because then I'm seen as too girly for the role. And might not be capable, especially when I'm dealing with some really old school machinists as customers or suppliers. They're like, I want to talk to the engineer. It's like, okay, strip that away and just walk confidently, and it works. It's annoying, but it works.
If I can add to that, I'm sorry, because
I'll just give you the mic.
I actually have had the privilege of working with Daria.
Yes, it was a privilege. Thank you, Raani. Because I work a lot with senior engineers, convincing them to buy whatever I'm selling. Of course, what they see a stupid girl who has audacity to tell them what to do. And that's the worst. It's much worse than this is one of your colleagues. So what I worked out, if I know it was coming, I actually dress like in steel-capped shoes and jeans, in the simplest t-shirt, no makeup, nothing. And I'm trying to be as non-gender as possible, because otherwise they only treat you as a girl. And this is the reality.
Some of my suppliers know me as Mr. Kelderman. I haven't bothered to correct them.
Anything to add, Sophia?
That's probably not much I can add, given I have been more in sort of a junior position. I mean, the imposter syndrome is real, where I would not feel confident enough to step up for something because I didn't feel myself capable, when you're especially in a room with older, more experienced men. I would say coming into industry, like, as I guess with a younger perspective, it almost hurts a little bit to hear experience of people having to tone themselves down as a woman to get by. And I guess there is that element of, like, what I know from hearing other people's experiences is, like, kind of proving yourself first, and then hopefully from there you can kind of integrate that aspect of, this is who I really am, this is how I dress, this is how I present myself, this is how I express myself, and I can do this. Kind of building that trust first and then putting that back in. It's a tricky balance, as I think both of you have mentioned, that balance of, being, maybe present more feminine, maybe present, however you want as a woman or a gender diverse individual, but also having to be the picture that they view you as, like the version that you think will appeal to them, in the sense that this is like the version they expect for getting a job done. And I hope that together we can move towards a place where those two align and are not at odds with each other.
And I would, to add to that, I think that starts with having more women leaders in the engineering space.
100%. Yeah, it's especially at that leadership role and that senior level where, especially with older men, because I think the problem definitely is with more sort of traditional thinking people. That's not necessarily the case with younger people nowadays, because I do think that it's changing for the better. So the more women we get at that top level position, the more change that we can see trickling down, because that's what set the example. Then they're on par with those other maybe senior men, and then that can change perspectives. So absolutely, I think if we can get retention up there, then hopefully everything falls into place down here.
Yeah, as Janelle said earlier, I've definitely noticed a pattern, like with someone more confident and being a man or a female at like different companies, especially big ones too, where the man might be provided a lot more opportunities at the start, and then will excel in leadership further compared to the woman. And that just makes the problem even worse, unfortunately. But yeah, we need to solve it one thing at a time. Cool. What's our currently most voted question? How on earth did you find all of these opportunities? They are real. Like you guys have the most amazing jobs I have heard of. They don't seem like things that you would find on Seek. Very true.
I can immediately speak to this because I looked for jobs on Seek last year. I was a little bit desperate. Again, the pressure of like trying to just find a job that I was happy with and that would pay me was so real, and I did look on Seek extensively. A lot of the roles that I've gotten throughout the years, or even offers that I've gotten, have been through word of mouth. Not a lot of them have been through formal job applications, and I stress this to everyone. do not just rely on submitting a resume and CV to a random job application. Please network, go to networking events, go to speed interview events at university. Those are so valuable. I know friends who have gotten jobs through those. Talk to people, go to events with sponsors, do events like these. Like this, you're already in a great spot to meet people with potential job opportunities. I think networking, especially in Auckland, is one of the most valuable things because it is small enough that everyone kind of knows someone. And at least for me, in a creative industry, that is especially the case. It is definitely, more than anything, a word of mouth game. But I'd say the same goes for engineering or any sort of hardware role. So definitely talk to people. Sign up for things that you might not even expect to get a job out of because you never know where it might lead. Branch out. Don't rely on just Seek or LinkedIn jobs because, they often do leave you getting ghosted in many cases.
I think in the past 2 years, especially since we've all graduated, it's insane how applying for jobs is you'll set an application and it might not even end up seeing anyone.
Yeah, look, so I'm 26, so when I was in second year, it was 2019. COVID sucked for trying to get jobs, I'll be honest about that. I sent in 31 applications through the proper official channels. Not one of my jobs in my entire life has actually come through that process. It's come from networking, meeting people. My current job, I was looking for grad roles going, there's nothing out there, we're out of COVID, there's nothing. So I went to a trade show called MX. Everyone here heard of it? I walked around that trade show and I was like, wow, they're going to put on the most personable people there. I walked around, I was like, oh, this is a bit dire. I'm going to have to work with people like this for 40 hours a week. Oh, okay. And I worked out who I wanted to go for by what they presented on the stand, what was interesting. Now, my top tip, quite often at these shows, people put on someone fairly senior because I think they're going to be able to negotiate that great business deal. That also means that as someone looking for a job, you're talking to the right person to offer one. And that's exactly how I got my job, and I've mentored a few people through, and that's how they've found the right jobs and fits for them. So you've got Food Tech, Pack Tech coming up, there's CMAT coming up, there's a whole lot of different events which allows you that opportunity to network and meet the people and see the work that they do.
That's some great advice.
I was just going to add, similar to what you said, it can be about the right timing and landing in front of the right person. So I have a really great senior engineer at work whose CV had been floating around for a year before it landed on my desk, and it was exactly the skills I was looking for at that time, and we snapped him up. So, it's not always the role that you're looking for right then and there, and it's kind of a little bit about timing. And
Cool. How do we get hands-on experience without connections or starting points? Would you have any suggestions for a place to start, i.e. personal projects?
I can definitely speak to this one because I think the main advice that I got from employers throughout my undergrad was do personal projects. But it's also, I think, that comes with an unspoken caveat, which is you need to do projects that you actually care about. Do not do projects just because you think it'll look good on a CV.
It's pretty obvious.
Yep. If it's something you're going to put your spare personal time into, it definitely should be something that excites you. And I will also say, I know people who didn't do personal projects and still got grad roles just fine. And so it's not the only path, it's not what you have to do. I think a lot of people do extracurriculars that don't involve actually making something, but they build other important skills like leadership skills, organization skills, and those are equally valuable. So I'd say do personal projects if that's what you want to do. So the question's gone, but in terms of building skills, that can also come in a lot of different forms. It could be taking a part-time job. Like for me, it was doing that research assistant role that just kind of meant gaining skills on the job just because it was what was needed to be done. In that role, I had never cut aluminum extrusion before, and so I had to learn how to use a drop saw, but my team was very supportive. I also did have a woman supervisor, which was also incredible. It was the only time that I did have one, and that was also really helpful, where she gave a lot of support and was like, no, we'll show you how to do it, we'll give the technicians to help you, and so take like part-time roles or get involved with a university club, maybe that involves a bit more hands-on skills. It doesn't have to be something that you personally work on, but that's also a really great starting point if that's what you want to do. I think that's my sort of advice there.
I'd say personal projects are more of a talking point about something you learned, right? So as long as it's coming from some sort of passion, it just happens to be something very tangible.
Yep.
That can go in so many other areas.
For sure. And I
Even
think
something learning something too, like, oh, I just taught myself this because I thought it was interesting. That's just as useful as a personal project.
No, exactly. And I think especially if you could always start with, instead of starting with like, oh, I want to make this specific thing, it could be like, oh, I want to learn this particular skill. Let me see if I can find a way to do it, like an avenue to learn it. And so that's often also a great starting point. Yeah.
I know the barrier sometimes can be I don't have the stuff to do things. Has everyone here heard of the tool library? Couple of hands. So the tool library is a place where, much like a library for books, you can go and essentially borrow equipment for your personal projects. If you are interested, and the price of buying your own tools is a bit prohibitive. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I myself never had time to do any of these kind of projects in my own time. So the thing that employers are looking for is someone interesting to talk to, because you're going to sit beside someone for 40 hours a week. They want someone interesting. If it's boring, they don't want that. So they're looking for another human that's going to be there to be that sort of social banter for 40 hours a week. And I can't stress that part being the important part enough.
They don't want to sit next to a robot.
No.
Just because you had a huge GPA.
Yeah, so anything that builds personality or character is the key thing they're looking for.
Great answers. Do you have anything to add? What are examples of practical skills that young women are lacking compared to their male peers? you gave a good insight to that earlier.
Yeah, you did. Mm-hmm. I mean, it is around practical skills, but also to reiterate that point that it's anything that's going to make you look a little bit different as well. So, when we're interviewing for interns or student roles, inevitably everybody comes in and they've done the same papers and they've done the warm-in competition. Yep. So you need to learn something that's going to make you stand out during kind of like that process. But in terms of practical skills, just like anything like, can you solder? Do you know how to solder? Can you pick up a saw and a hammer and a drill and screw something together? I mean, just anything that's going to, learn a little bit more about things like tolerancing, that you come out of university and you've designed something on CAD, but a lot of the young students don't understand tolerancing. How does something go together? And just having that hands-on practical experience kind of teaches you a little bit about that.
It's making me think of, like, as kids, like, if I picked up a tool, I would make sure I knew how to use it, I'd do it safely, whereas, like, my brother would just be like, ha-ha! And just, like, I think, like, that kind of mentality kind of does add up as well, right?
Even just, so I did a talk at an intermediate a little while ago, and they had started a Lego club. And it was really interesting because the boys would come along to this Lego club and they would get stuck in and they'd be pulling stuff apart, building stuff, having a great time. And the teachers noticed that the young girls were standing back, and so they started a girls-only club. And it was in the lunch times, and the girls would come along and they started out really tentative. They didn't really know what to do, some of them. And they said by the end of the term, these girls were programming like their little robots to drive around the room. I thought it was fantastic that the teachers had done that, but also recognised that the girls maybe needed a safe space to learn it. It was really cool.
Yeah, there's just such a big barrier to entry to, like, give. It's almost even ties into the whole thing about applying for a job, right? Where if you don't have it, like, all the skills, then you're not going to apply versus a guy. Yeah. It's crazy how that extends across. Yeah,
all ages. Yeah, for sure. I think on those notes, like, those skills, I mean, part of what I did when I was working, like, with RoboGals, we were doing STEM workshops for primary students, and also with WEN, was, we need to start earlier and earlier, because it was this realization that girls as, like, young as 5 are recognizing that there is a difference in skills that is valued, that's gendered, and they're learning that this is not their place based on, you know, the world that's been set up for them. And so even like as young as primary age, they're not doing the same things as boys because they're taught that that's not their place, but just by media, just by association, just by adults. And so it's starting early with like workshops, giving safe spaces, opportunities for them, is really where it's at. And I think that's why with when they've been getting earlier and earlier with doing initiatives for younger high school age students, because initially it was like years 12, 13, and then it's been slowly creeping towards like year 9, because I realized, oh, even that's too late, because by then, and when girls are applying for engineering or for university, they still don't feel like it's their place. So it's starting early as, yeah, those safe spaces. So it's cool to hear about teachers able to recognize that as well and provide those spaces. And it's something I feel like my school didn't really provide. Because even when I was in grade 8 and had the opportunity to do like a hydraulics course, an elective, I thought it was a boys only sort of thing, didn't do it, regret it to this day. So yeah, definitely very real. Mm-hmm.
How much did grades shape your early opportunities?
Yes.
What mattered more? How did you stay confident and keep growing when academics felt tough? Uni gal here.
So you know how I talked about how my parents were shocked that I was going into engineering? So the main reason they were shocked was that maths and physics were my worst subjects in school. And you know what? Going through uni, they were still my worst subjects. Yeah, I wasn't a first-class honours student. I was a second-class honours student. It honestly doesn't matter. And no one ever looks at it past your first job. And your first job might not even look at it unless they're really struggling to whittle people down. The key part is literally how interesting are you and how ready are you to be comfortable in the uncomfortable.
I can definitely speak on the confidence end, because similarly, although my math grades were good in high school, my physics grade was my lowest. And so knowing that I wanted to do engineering, I spent my final year of high school just doing everything I could to get better at physics. I had a tutor. I don't know anyone knows who had a tutor. Granted, I did IB and it was very hard. But that was also, it showed me that like because I wanted to improve, I still liked physics, even if it was my worst subject. It was like, I want to get better at this because I know this is what I want to continue doing. So I think the main thing to stay confident especially is like, if you have a passion for it, if you have a drive to learn and get better, that will get you going more than anything else. If you're doing it just because someone else has told you to do it, that's not gonna drive you to improve or to even just keep at it. And I think that's, well, and that's okay sometimes. Like maybe that means you want to do something else and that's totally fine. But if you want to keep at it and get better, and yeah, grades don't really matter at all. I got a bad grade on one of my master's courses, does not matter at all. Does not affect my thesis. Hallelujah. But to this day, yeah, my physics grade in high school also had no impact long term. The important thing was that I kept going, that I kept studying it because I wanted to and because I wanted to get better. Got into engineering, ended up doing mechatronics, even though electrical engineering or electricity was my worst subject out of my worst subject. And at the end of the day, didn't matter. It was okay.
If I could make one more observation. Yeah. At my interview for my current job, for the first one I did out of uni, the observation my employers made were, oh, so your grades aren't as good, but we can see you probably didn't have time for work. Because you're too busy gaining all these other skills that we think are more useful.
Yeah, there's probably not too much to add, but as the hiring manager, obviously I'm going to look for somebody that can do the job. So, you know, the smart's there to be able to do the job. And obviously I work with some incredibly smart people, but yeah, those other skills are super important. Are you a team player? Do you have curiosity? Do you have the resilience and don't give up if there's a problem or a challenge? Like, those skills are so much more important at the end of the day.
What are demanding skills that women should develop to get into hardware? I'm an automation engineer.
Do you want to answer that first? Or especially for automation?
Honestly, being a generalist, I said it before, being uncomfortable with not knowing and just being able to learn and be able to pick something up unless you're in an automation position that's doing the same thing over and over and over again. Then you kind of need your specialist skills, but more often than not, in automation, you need to be more of a generalist that's able to pick something up quickly.
How is AI impacting the hardware industry?
I actually was part of a really interesting discussion. One of the other things I do, I'm one of the advisory board members for the Department of Mechatronics and Mechanical for the University of Auckland. And we were having this exact discussion. And the key takeaway there is the human aspect. AI will never be able to understand how real humans with emotions and feelings will be able to work with things tactically, be able to handle something, be able to work around it. So what we really need to be is well-rounded in understanding how other humans will react.
I can't necessarily speak for like extensive hardware industry, although I would kind of add that I think in terms of hardware development, it, at least to me, as someone who briefly was in sort of production hardware, it definitely feels like, you know, the AI and the software development is so like fast moving out there, but the hardware definitely feels like it needs catching up. There's a reason why we don't see robots walking around, because it's expensive. And a lot of that development, I think, is still so necessary. It's why being in hardware, I think, is a really good place to be long term. In terms of like the creative industry as well, because I can definitely speak to that, I even just the other week had a colleague plug in Claude AI to Touch Designer, which is my primary program of choice for what I do right now, and have it generate a network completely from a prompt, which was total whiplash for me. As someone who had, you know, spent countless hours learning this program and doing it, and then just to see an AI agent just do it all at the sign of a prompt was definitely kind of scary, very existential. So I'd say like that aspect of having AI, and obviously we could see that happening with CAD as well, like being able to plug an AI agent into CAD, but also as someone who has dated someone who is in the additive manufacturing industry and also has seen that firsthand, I think his opinion and my opinion is that human knowledge and like deep knowledge from education, from experience, won't fully replace AI, because there is so much there from the tangible aspect, from knowing how things interact in real life, that AI just doesn't know and is not there yet. And I think that human element, especially when you're working with clients in any sort of industry, is also really important for them knowing and having confidence that there's a human behind this who understands you know, things like pain and, you know, emotions. And so I'd say nothing will replace that. At least that's the hope, and I think there's a huge value for that human element to this day, and I think that will continue. Yeah.
Okay, we'll do 2 more questions. I'll do this one, so if everyone wants to go vote for the last question, go ahead. Do you have any advice for succeeding in one-way video interviews in order to get to the in-person interview stage?
I hate those, but I get them. I've done a lot of them, I guess fairly recently. I did one last year. And they suck, they do. It's much better talking to a person. I constantly talk to myself though, and I talk in front of the mirror all the time. So I think I'm also really well equipped to do that. So I'd say my advice would be to practice doing that. Just talk in front of a mirror, talk to yourself, because it's basically what you're doing. I saw a reel today that was, someone had done, it was a one-way interview, but it was with an AI agent. So they were literally talking with like an AI generated image of a person, but they were wearing a polo and like a hoodie basically. And it was like, what are we doing? That was just an aside. I thought that was interesting. Hopefully it's not quite like that, but I'd say, yeah, practice talking to yourself, practice talking in front of a mirror. If it helps, just write down a list of random questions that you think they might ask, because often you don't get to know the questions beforehand, but that's like in any interview. Yeah, that's probably my advice.
I stuck a photo of a friend up behind my computer. So I meant I was looking in the right place, because I was just staring at my friend pretending we're on a video call. And that the question I was being asked was that, what my friend was asking in a practice video call. That worked. Yeah, just get used to talking into a screen When you come into work, you're going to end up doing a lot of video calls with your colleagues, especially if you're in the office. It's in one city and your colleague is in another city. We're getting more and more jobs these days where you might be the only person in a particular office and the rest of your team is elsewhere. So it's not only an annoying skill to have with an AI bot, but when your colleagues get very tired and you're working across time zones, they're going to pretty much sound like that bot too. So it's been able to work into that environment, and that's one of the things. I've been on the other side as an interviewer. I'm looking to see how can they work in this kind of semi-uncomfortable situation, and what sort of body cues will they be able to show when we're working together online. You might have some insights.
Yeah, I mean, I've never had to deal with that one-way AI interview, luckily. But I'm pretty sure there was an article and stuff recently where the reporter actually failed the interview for his own job. But just, yeah, some tips on just general video interviews. I did once interview a guy's forehead for an entire hour. I probably should have cut that one off a bit sooner. The number of young men that are students that I will see their unmade bed in the background. Like, just honestly, there's just so many things about just making it professional, and it's quite easy to, that first interview is really just personality. They just want to get to know you. Can we have a conversation? I think a lot of that first interview is quite basic, and then they'll move into more of the technical. So really that first interview is putting your best foot forward, being confident, being professional. And then we're looking to see, can we work with this person for 40 hours a week, so or more.
Cool. And last question. As a woman, and even as engineers, we're told to be realistic, get a job and a career and settle. But what do you do once you get there? Because, I guess I remember being in uni, like doing all of these things, like, yes, because I found them interesting, but because it was leading towards my career. But it is kind of weird once you get there what you do, right? How much do you want to keep working outside of work, and then like how do you kind of open up to actually looking after yourself for once? And because you have to look after yourself when you start working, right?
I feel sad that someone's telling you to settle. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, like you have your dream role now, but like what do you do now?
What's
like
next? Interesting.
Don't settle. You're never going to get that dream job right off the bat, and it could just be me, but eventually you start feeling a little bit bored because you're like, I've done this a while, I've kind of know what I'm doing, so you find that next challenge, that next opportunity, and when you transition out of uni life, you suddenly go, oh my God, especially as a junior role, you go, oh my God, I went home from work and I don't have to keep studying. After 5 and before 9 a.m. the next day is my time, find something to fill it. Because you're not going to have assignments, you're not going to have, well, you might still have a part-time job after work. It'll be a bit crazy if you do, but you might. Find something that is your passion to fill that space. Don't let it while away on Netflix.
This question hits hard because this is the exact fear I had coming out of uni, and I think it's what gave me so much like paralysis when it came to applying for grad roles, because I immediately just saw this like future where I am stuck in a job and I just do a 9 to 5 and I do nothing else with my life. But the reality that I face is, even at times where I have been working a 9 to 5, I have always filled any sort of spare time with whatever I could. Like side quests, just doing a lot of hobbies, doing a lot of cool things with people. I'd say never underestimate the power of having other people in your life to just do things with. Like you can just go on a grocery run with a friend. There's so much value to be had in just surrounding yourselves with other people and having that fill your time and fill your cup, I guess.
Find the whimsy.
Yeah, find the whimsy. Find the whimsy in a lot of things. Because I think, especially for me, especially when I started working the first time, I was like, oh my God, after 5, I'm so tired, I just want to go home and nap. And I know a lot of people who do that. And I think that some days that's okay. But I think it's also, there's days where I'm like, I know I want to make sure that I'm actually like making the most of the time that I do have. And I want to spend it with friends. Maybe it's catching up with a friend after work or trying a new activity. I think that's definitely, yeah, there's so many ways to keep your life interesting, even if you're settling in a career, even if you have a consistent schedule. There's so much you can do on a day-to-day basis that just changes, like little things that you can do to make your life interesting. And yeah, volunteer, get out there, do stuff for the community.
Always need volunteers at Scouts. We got 12,000 young people.
There's always opportunities for volunteering. So things like that, I think people really value, and just putting your time into something that can help others helps fill your cup as well.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for coming. Thank you very much, Janelle, Sophia, and Raani. And yeah, big thank you to our sponsors, Outset, Loon, Braymac, and Londo's Jordan.